live on air. This is another webinar for the Powerful Men's Group, and this time I'm joined by a guest, Izzy. Hi, Izzy.
What's up, man? What's up, men and Ankush?
It's great to have you here. I mean, this is the first time we're actually seeing each other. We've spoken a couple of times, but it was always audio, so great to have you with us.
Yeah, man. Excited. Just really excited to be here.
Cool. And I know I can see people have logged on the side, so feel free just to send us a little message. We know the chat function's working, and just say hello. Love to hear from you guys. Looking forward to this webinar. I don't know Izzy very well, but we got introduced through a mutual friend, colleague, and they just said, you two should just connect. And what was really cool after a conversation was, we didn't know, really there was no agenda, if you like, going. Certainly, I don't think from either side. There's no agenda going into the conversation. And I'll let Izzy. I'll let you introduce yourself in a second. But you've got a really, really cool background. We know a lot of mutual people, similar people. And what we found is that Izzy's kind of, on a second conversation, real area of expertise or something that he's passionate about is helping men find their own passion, finding their true passion. And for me, it's really about helping men make that a reality. And so we thought, this could be a really cool double thing. So this is like the first stage where I'm having Izzy on this show, and then hopefully we'll be doing something for your audience as well. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting to me, even if we look at how you and I got connected, is we both got connected and then we trusted. Right? We trusted that something could open, something could happen from there. And I think that even begins to open the door to how does one find what their direction, their purpose. You move forward, you trust. And it's interesting to see how this is being created as a result of you and I embodying that.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like it. And certainly how I've seen certainly the last couple of years really, really play out, and how wonderful synchronicities and everything occurs when I've been open to that.
Yeah.
So you call yourself a real life ninja, right? so let's hear a little bit about you. Who is Izzy for the people on here who've never heard of you, never met you? Who are you, and tell us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in all fairness, I actually don't call myself a real life ninja. I built a business called the 30-Year-Old Ninja, and with the actions and stuff I chose, everyone started to call me a ninja. And of course, as I share more of my story, it'll make sense. What do you think, Ankush? I mean, I can go lots of different directions here. I can actually share the journey of what I do, who I am. But could also talk about vanilla ice cream. I would like to talk about what would be most awesome and the value for the community.
Well, I think it's really good. That, as you know, this has been recorded for the Powerful Men's Group, and what I find is there are an awful lot of people who are online sharing advice, giving their points of view, and with the best will in the world, I don't think they've really got a lot of life experience to share that. And what I really liked when I spoke to you is that you've really had quite an incredible journey. And so this isn't just something you've read in a book and going, okay, right, step 1 is do this, step 2 is do this. I mean, you're talking really from a place of your own experience. And I really wanted to kind of bring that out for people who didn't know anything about you. Cool.
Great. That sounds awesome. So, and of course, at any point, chime in, jump in, redirect me. When I out of school, I'm 33 years old now. So out of school, I was a middle school teacher. I taught in one of the toughest schools in the country in South Central Los Angeles. I was a middle school teacher, a program called Teach for America. My 4th year in, I had everything nailed down. Like I had a great, I was moving up the ladder, was getting my master's degree in education. My retirement was maxed out. I had killed all my debt. Like I was on my plan to become a millionaire. Everyone was telling me, actually, I was on a fast track. I was on a fast track to be running my own school before I was 30. It's in a special program for that. So in theory, everything I was doing sounded great, but there was one problem. I hated my life. I hated it. I had severe insomnia, depression, anxiety, regular breakdowns. So I was forced to step back and ask the question, like, I came to the realization I cannot exist like this, because 26 at that point in time is like, and I just felt like my world was collapsing on top of itself and struggling. And how did I get here? What did I do? Like, I did everything right. Like, I have the job, I have the career. I even had a really beautiful girlfriend at the time. I mean, it was every single thing fit the checklist, and yet I was becoming more and more unhappy and more depressed each day. So that rocked me into, like, why am I doing all this, and what do I really want to do with my life? And realizing that I followed all these rules, and yet it made me only more and more depressed. So I started to go, well, I've tried living their way. I got to live my way. And through a lot of reflection, and we could break this down more, and I'd be curious on your thoughts about it too. But I think one of the major keys to finding one's direction, purpose, mission, is one, understanding that it's ever evolving. Like, it's ever evolving. I don't believe in that one breakthrough moment and it's like, oh, now my life is perfect, right? It's you figure it out, you screw up for a while, you're doing pretty good, then you screw up and fail, and you adjust and learn and move forward. After a lot of reflection, a lot of opening up, a lot of vulnerability, connecting with people, I started to have insights and awareness that, like, well, what do I want to do with my life? Well, this same thought kept popping up, which made no sense, which I'd throw it to your, your way, the men for this group, is there something that continually pops up for you? Is there this crazy idea that makes no sense, but like every time it like connects you, you feel it in your heart, like you feel it in your balls, like you feel it in you. I had this idea, and I want to be a ninja. I want to be a ninja. I want to be a ninja. And at first I rejected it, completely pushed it away. And for months, because what the hell does that mean? I'm a professional teacher. I'm going to run my own school. I'm getting my master's degree. A ninja, it makes no sense. Pushed it away, month after month, depression, insomnia, anxiety, but working my way through it. And then it was in March of 2010 when I was sitting in my place alone, and the same thing came up. I want to be a ninja. I want to be a ninja. And I finally just took out my journal, which I always got a journal with me. I believe in always writing, always reflecting. Awareness of self. That's how we discover what we want. I had a journal. I said, well, what is this? What does this mean? I want to be a ninja. And I started to realize all my life, I've always loved martial arts. I've loved ninjas. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport. Like, these were my idols. Billy Blanks, before he did Taibo, way before Taibo. As I started to reflect on this, I realized, like, wait a second, this is a childhood dream. Like, being a ninja is a childhood dream. So I started to see it through that lens of, okay, it's not a real ninja. It's what did my 8-year-old self think a ninja was? And I broke it down to 3 things. And I remember those 3 things were, so a ninja moves to some faraway, mysterious land. Number 2, so that was 1. Number 2, trains extensively in martial arts. Number 3, lives life by his own rules. So I wrote them down. And I was like, I can do that. I can do that. And a year and a half later, through leaving my career, moving in with my parents for a year, saving up money, getting part-time work, but I ended up moving to Japan. One thing I would throw in there, just to be aware of, and then I'd love to push it towards you, Ankush, is just don't necessarily listen to everything directly what I'm saying. Listen to the undertones. Because if you listen to the undertones, that's where insight will come for you, right? If I went through a year and a half of my life, I said, lived with my parents, notice that there was a lot of hard work that had to go into that, a lot of challenge, a lot of patience to be able to eventually get to Japan. But I went over it really quick, just to be aware of. All right, man, I've done a lot of talking.
Well, I love what you've said, and there's so much in that I want to kind of unpack it a little bit. And it really kind of reflects my own experience as well. So, one of the things that you said was, it kept coming up, and I could so relate to that. For me, it was around coaching, and it sounds so weird to say this now because it feels so in line with what I do. But you go back 4 years or 5 years, that was just impossible. You know, like, what on earth would I be doing being a coach, right? And I rejected it. And I remember I spent 2 days really just like with a pen and paper and just with my mind thinking, what do I want to do with my life? How do I find my passion? Because I knew it wasn't what I was doing, even though I had, like you, so many similarities. I had the good job and the career and very highly regarded, and everything worked out. And coach didn't even come up for me, right? In those 2 days, when I thought with my logical mind, like what I knew, and like this was the constraints of what's possible for me in my life. And when I stopped thinking about it, it was the next day, and I was cooking, and then it came up to me like, you should be a coach. And that was, you know, what I call an insight. It was different to what I already knew. It came from somewhere else. And then when it came up, it was like, wait, can I do that? Is that possible? And then when I started to explore it, it was like, yeah, maybe I can, right? But what was really cool, and I think you're kind of pointing to this, is just because I have the insight, and I don't know if this is true for anyone else, and I'd love to get feedback on the messages if this is really connecting with people. But I used to think, and sometimes I hear people talk about it in this way, that it's like you go through life not knowing what the hell your passion is, or your vision, or your purpose, whatever you want to call it. And then one day you'll have an insight, you'll get it, and then it's just easy, right? And then it's like, oh, well, you've got your vision, so it's easy. And for me, it was really not like that. And it sounds like the same thing was for you. You have a direction, but you know, I was shitting myself, right? Like it was like, this was like, now I had the direction. It's like, now I've got to go and do it. And it's like, how do I entangle myself from my career? How do I learn about this? Like, what do I do? There was a lot of things I had to face for myself inside. Like, I'm actually doing this, and that's not a one-off thing. It was constant. And then there's things I have to face out into the world. And like you say, it's a lot of hard work. So, I mean, that's just what comes up for me. There's probably so much more as well.
I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's, I think what's so amazing about it is one of the things that I wasn't aware of, and it's such a beautiful gift, is the amount of, and it's exactly what I'm hearing, the undertone of what you're saying, and what I'm saying, is the amount of growth and development that comes as a result of the journey, just to figure out the first direction. And just to begin that, because, and it really, one challenge is for me was, and it sounds like for you as well, Ankush, is that it's like, okay, here's this idea that I think maybe possibly kind of could be something I want to do, but I don't know. I'm not totally sure. It's like, and then there was the moments for me where it was like, hell yeah, I'm doing this. Like, yeah, I'm going to Japan. I'm quitting teaching. I'm done with this. I hate this. I hate this. I love it. I like really clear. And then give me an hour, give me 5 minutes, maybe give me a couple days. And all of a sudden, I was like, man, like, I'm going to leave all of this. Like, I've built an entire career. I'm getting my master's degree in education. I invested my own money. Like, I'm going to fast track. I'm going to change education. Like, but I hate it. Like, but I can't leave this. Like, it was on a spreadsheet how I was in a millionaire plan. I knew with all the investments I made and everything, like, you know, and yet I'd be so unhappy if I kept doing that. I'd be so unhappy. And what's it all worth? You know, what's it all worth if, like, trading 10 years, 5 years, 30 years, 40 years, so then you could finally be happy at 65? I think that I think it's important. One of the things that came to me that was really powerful was that it was just like, I'm done. Like, I will not live this life. Like, I will not do this. I will not be unhappy. I will not be depressed. I will not live my life based on what everyone else is telling me to do. It's my life. And I have to wake up in my skin. Like, I have to live with me every moment of the day. And at that point in my life, all night too, because I was an insomniac. So it was painful. And so it developed a conviction inside of, like, I don't know how I'm going to figure this out. But I'm gonna do whatever I got to do.
You know what? You're reminding me of a story that Michael Neal, who's quite a well-known coach, kind of says. It's like, imagine you're a coach and someone comes to you and it's actually Bill Gates, but he's forgotten who he is. And and he's coming to you like, for how do I make my life a little bit better? And he goes, it'd be pretty obvious that you help him see that you don't need to be better at, you've got lost and he's wandered off into some community and he wants to do well at his local job. It's like helping him realize he's Bill Gates, right? Like, and when I first heard that, I was like, oh, that's a really cool little coaching story, right? Oh, okay, that's a nice metaphor. But what I'm seeing more and more is, and I see it with this group of powerful men, I see it with my clients, is that every single one of us, and I truly believe this, has got our version of that. And I never before, but I know when I quit my job and I was in this working for one of the biggest companies in the world, and I was in this great corporate job, and when I handed in my notice, I thought a load of people were going to think he's an idiot. What is he doing? He's got this great career, and they wouldn't understand me, and it would be. And my boss was like that. But what was really, really interesting is so many people came up to me and said, do you know what? We wish we could do what you're doing. And everyone had their own version of that. So someone said, well, I would love to be a property investor, but it's risky. And someone else said, well, what I'd love to do? I'd love to go and, move abroad and do this. And someone else said, well, I would love to have my own bakery or whatever. And it was like every single person had something. And then there was always a reason why they couldn't do it. And for me now, it's kind of more of a case of, it's not about helping people find their passion. And I don't really do that. I know you do that more, but it's more about helping people realize what's already there. Like you say, it's that coming up and that popping up. And if nothing pops up or comes up, you've still got stuff that you like to do, which might be a bit weird or a little bit different. And I'm actually sure that if you're in this group and you're listening to this webinar, you're not like 99% of the population anyway. Right? You're interested in something. You're interested in at least finding out what your passion is. So I don't know if that resonates with you, but it sounds like that's quite similar to what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, right? Because it's the second I hear you, I'm like, well, hell yeah, that's what I do. Like, I just help people be themselves. And it's interesting though, because I interviewed a lot of my past clients and I asked them, I said, what is like the most important thing that you got from this? Like the thing that was like the biggest, the most powerful. And it's funny because, I had one client, we worked together for 2 months. He ended up didn't have any type of business before that. He ended up creating $25,000 in a coaching business over the course of those few months. He had a foundation in place. He'd done a lot of work on himself. It's important. People hear these stories of these people who just blow shit up, and it's like, okay, but what were they doing before that? You're not hearing the story before that a lot of the time. But he had these results, and I asked him, I was like, so what is the best thing you got from to working there? And he's like, I'm just more me. I'm more me. And it was so interesting because of course that time and I asked him, I said, what if you knew that was what you get? What if I told you that you would be more you, and you're telling me you're excited, you're so happy at the time. Do you feel would 6 months ago or 3 months ago, whenever it was, when we began and I told you this is what you'll get, would you have chosen to work with me? And he goes, no way. He's like, and I was like, was it worth it? He's like, oh my God, yes. And so it's interesting when we talk, and I was even thinking this morning, I was like, even sometimes the word purpose, I struggle with that. I struggle with what's my purpose? Every time I come up with something, I could give you some words, but there's a piece of me, it's like, I don't know. I don't know exactly. It's like, and then sometimes I'll go, but when I switch it and I go, well, what's my mission? What's my mission? What's my mission right now? I got a mission right now. I'm on some missions, I'm building a dojo in this town, in this community. I want to bring Aikido to this community. That's the martial art I study. So when I moved to Japan, then studied martial arts. I lived there for 4 years. Just gotta throw that in there. But that's a part of my mission right now. So we could say that's a part of my purpose. But really all that is used beautifully articulated, Ankush, is that the martial arts, the reason I'm doing it is because it's me. It's me. When I talk to clients and everything, they hear my story about moving to Japan, follow my childhood dream to become a ninja, and I did martial arts. They're not interested in being a ninja. They're interested in being themselves. And they hear that so it's about like, yeah, that's self-awareness. Find ourselves, listen to the heart, and go for it.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it's so true. I think if the one thing people could see, and I'm sure we're not going to cover it in a webinar, but who knows, someone might have an insight. But I think if the one thing people could see was it's actually okay to be you, and it's okay to want what you want, and it's okay to follow whatever your dreams are, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what your parents want or your girlfriend wants or your wife or whatever else. Like that's, you know, I had a client recently who said to me, well, I want to do all of these things, and she had all this like great stuff she wanted to do. And she said, but, you know, I feel like I'm letting down my family if I do this. And I asked, I said, well, what if the highest honor you could give your family was to do what you wanted to do? And she started crying. And people don't see it in that way. But, you know, you can be, it's like the Bill Gates story. Like Bill Gates turns up and he could be like an okay, I don't know, like, retail clerk, right, or something, but the thing that he's got going for him is that he's Bill Gates. That's inside him, and everyone's got that seed of genius or whatever. And for every person, you've got some shit that you like that's weird, right, that other people don't like. It could be anything. Like it could be anything. People have, and this is the cool thing, we live in a time, an age where it's easy to follow that. It's so much easier. Like if you want to sing, you don't even need a record deal. You can make money by just having a guitar and playing on YouTube, right? Like there's so many ways to follow that. There's so many ways to follow what you enjoy doing and doing what you want to do, right? Mm-hmm. And it's been easier than any time in history. You know, people get paid for playing computer games. That still blows my mind. Right? People get paid to do that and just play computer games online and record themselves, and people watch it and they make money from the adverts and whatever else, right? That's a thing now. So we live in this glorious time in history where it's so possible to do all of this stuff. And I remember for me, I used to think whatever I like doing, that wasn't good enough. I felt like I would hear a story like yours. I'm like, oh no, but that sounds really cool because he wants to become a ninja. Therefore I need to, my version of that is not cool enough. So my version of that was just, oh, I like reading books and I like really exploring self-development, but that wasn't a good enough vision because it didn't sound cool. So I kind of ignored it for a long time.
Yeah. What's so amazing about it, right, is that, so one of the things that I'm curious, well, are you cool with kind of jumping into your story a bit? Because there's something that I see in this. Are you cool with that? Yeah, cool, sweet. So it's interesting because one of the things that really inspired me about your story, Ankush, is just you just went on a mission to just really develop yourself, and you did it in so many layers in terms of, you know, working on dating and working with the whole skill set, and that these different areas of personal development, right? Like you really like just give yourself to it. And what's so interesting about it is that in going for it, your story became so fascinating, right? Like it's like, you know, and I think we all have that voice. So for me, it definitely was something where I was like, well, this is crazy. Like I sound like an idiot. Like I'm 26 years old. I'm going to quit this entire career. There's all I'm good, like to go like be a ninja. And on top of it, especially that year where I lived with my parents, it's like my girlfriend, I have no job. I'm unemployed. I'm living with my parents. I'm 27 years old and I've done it all because I'm going to become a ninja. Like, and at that point I didn't even have a clear path. I knew a way to Japan, but I hadn't locked it in. So it's like, I'm telling everyone I'm going to go to Japan, but I haven't locked it in. And a lot of voices were still there. You know, it's kind of like stories are they happen. You know, but if I see a common theme, right, it's that we've gone on our journeys, right? We went on our journeys, and in going, like really going for it, like it's then we become someone, We become someone as a result of the experiences that we step into. Everything that I do, traveling around, studying Aikido, connecting, building a business, bringing men out into the wilderness, these type of activities, I couldn't do any of it 5 years ago. It didn't matter. I go back in time and shake my head and say, do this, this, and this. And I didn't have the skill set. I didn't have the capacity. Like, I was a beginning student of Aikido, my 2nd degree black belt now, and all the skill set I bring into it in terms of all the tens and not counting anymore of numbers of investments that I've made in my personal development and growth. But the whole journey grows us. And, yeah, it's really.
So, I mean, we're kind of coming up to about half an hour. So I like to really get people involved in this. So I know we've got a number of people on the side who said hello and everything else. So hi, Arvin, Hogne, Brajesh, Niels, Greg. I'd love to get your points of view. Is this making any sense whatsoever? Are we just babbling crap, basically? We're really not answering your question. So I'd love to hear from you guys. And if people are, in a situation where you've got a specific question, feel free to ask that. If you want us just to talk more about our stories, happy to do that. Greg's said, this is exactly where he is right now. I have 1 year of college left for a degree I don't have any interest in. I feel a calling to be a coach and an author, but I feel stuck where I am. It's exciting and terrifying at the same time. And what I'll say is, yeah, being there. I think a lot of people, what I find a lot, I don't know if you find this too, Izzy, is that I find a lot of people are waiting to to have a knowing, right? Like, oh, okay, once I feel comfortable with this, once I feel okay, once I have a knowing, then I will take the actions I know I need to take. And I just don't see that it works that way. I don't know what your view is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the first guy, you said his name was Greg?
Greg, yeah.
Greg, yeah. So the thing that came up in my mind is I was like, Greg, who is it that if they gave you permission that you would immediately go do it? Like, is it, and it could be anyone. Maybe it's a girlfriend, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad. But is there anyone that you're waiting for permission that if they said, oh, that sounds amazing, that sounds incredible, actually take action on it? Then the next thing, of course, is like, fuck that. You don't need a permit anyone. Like, you don't, if you're stuck, right, it's because you're waiting. Like, I'm assuming it's a metaphor and your feet aren't literally stuck in quicksand right here, right? Like, and so you have the capacity to go, what's interesting to me about it actually is that he knows what he wants. He said it. You even hear it right in the text. I want to be a coach and an author. I'm stuck. So, all right, just put it out into the world. Begin talking about it. Begin sharing it. Just speak it in the world. I'm a coach. I'm coaching. I'm beginning my coach training. You are? Where? How are you doing that? While I'm going around, I have a responsibility. I have to coach 5 people a week. Really? Who are you doing that through? Oh, organization. Really? They do incredible stuff. Who's the powerful organization? You. Greg, you are your own. Go for it. That's what comes up for me. And I also know it's to do that, right? Like, I say it kind of like just do it, but it's hard. And the inner work that you'll do in that process of like going for it, being like, oh God, I shouldn't do that. Who am I? I tell you, man, I'm totally have gone through that. I moved to Japan. I trained in martial arts and I earned my black belt. And I remember a time a friend came and visited the dojo, and I was training. I was 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. I was in my 2nd year of an intense study, and a friend came to film it. And I remember being terrified because I thought that I was like, he's going to come and realize I'm not a real martial. He's going to realize I'm a fraud. And it's the part of the journey is working through that. Because, and take one step, take a breath, go eat some pizza, burritos, depending on where you're at. I guess I'm coming from California, so I say things like that. Yeah, enjoy the journey. I don't know. Well, yeah. Well, is there something? Well, where do you want to take it, Ankush?
Yeah, and what I'd love is, Greg, if you've got a more specific question, please use the chat box and write to us. and let us know if that's helpful or not, if you've got something more specific you want to ask us. Yeah, and based on what you were saying, Izzy, I just wanted to kind of add one thing as well, which has been really, really helpful to me. And that's always kind of breaking it down into steps. Because I know when I often feel like paralyzed or I can't move, it's because I'm probably thinking too far ahead. And I know when I work with people as well, it's like there's always a step that we can take that might feel terrifying, but it's something that we can do. So if you want to, like you say, if you want to be a coach, if you can't sign up for coach training, go and research which ones are out there, right? Like if you don't know which ones are out there, go and speak to someone who's a coach, right? If you want to be an author, we live in a world where you can Google anything, and the first step might just be Googling, how does one become an author? And I'm sure there'll be dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of thousands of pages out there full of information about how to do that, with loads of ideas about what your next step might be. And it's the same for anything that there is. And I don't know about you, but you shared the story about feeling like a fraud. I've had that continually, but it comes and goes. Some days you think that, yeah, this is great, and I'm loving this, and this is awesome. And there will be moments, no matter where I am in my journey. And I kind of just realized this quite early on, which has been really helpful, is that I know in 20 years time, if I stay on my path and I do what I do, I know I'm going to be way better than I am now at my career. And still in 20 years time, I'm sure I'll have moments where I'll feel like a fraud and I'm not good enough or scared to take whatever the next step looks like, or what I think the next step looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hogney's commented and said he's had an insight so far, feels like a few things are falling into place, easy to forget things from our childhood. And I know that was something that you mentioned about what you wanted to do when you were a kid.
Yeah. And I think we even go into like kind of more the undertone of it, right? The undertone is that like the answers are in front of us. Like they're kind of screaming at us actually. But it's slowing down. And actually both of us, when we talked about it, because you had said that it was like the day after you'd spent this 2-day kind of self-created intensive experience, figure out what you're going to do with your life, figure out your purpose. And it's funny that, and I would say that probably all that work that you did was powerful. And then the next day cooking, you should be a coach, right? For me, it actually came, it was very similar experience. I was reading books and I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Nothing was coming. But remember the powerful insight, I was in my apartment alone in silence and just sitting there, and I was calm. I was like, I'm going to be a teacher. And it was like, be a ninja, be a ninja, be a ninja. I was like, all right, I gotta look into this thing, and was just open to it. Yeah.
One thing that's occurring to me, if you're scared, that's probably a good sign that that's something worth exploring. Yeah. I think a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I mean me, right? Like I put things off because it looks scary, like, oh, that's something I want to explore. And even now, there are things like the personal development world is so big, and there are things that I want to explore. And a kind of rough guide, this is not true, this is just something that I made up for me, but if there's like 10 things and like 8 of them look really like sensible and one of them looks okay, and then the 10th thing just looks shit scary, this is probably worthwhile me looking at the one that looks shit scary, because that I've probably got something on that, I've probably made up something about it, and there's something for me to learn and grow from that. And I don't think you can't do this wrong, like if you're in a position where you don't know what your passion, maybe you do and you're scared, you can't do it wrong. Yeah, you might have some false starts. Yeah, I don't think that's not, I don't think anything is an offer. Right, this is your vision, this is your passion, and you just do it and you make no mistakes. That just doesn't happen. So just going and doing what you can do, making the mistakes you make it's good, it's great.
Yeah, I think this is just something that keeps coming up. So one of the reasons I love martial arts so much and Aikido is because why do I train? Like, why do I go to the dojo? Like, why do I do this? Is it because I'm preparing for some epic fight in my life that like one day I'll find this big dude in an alley and then we'll have our battle? No, that's not why I train. That's not why I do it. It's because it's the joy of the actual experience. And sometimes it's frustrating as hell. Sometimes I'm doing it and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I suck. Other times I really feel something. I feel really connected to it, but it's the joy of the experience. And I know from the beginning, when I was a white belt, the first day I went in and had no idea what was going on and it hurt my shoulder, everything I did, versus now when I have a better sense of what's going on. I still am a huge student of the art. I'm a complete student of the art. But I have a better sense of it. But the whole thing is, it's like, oh, the more I show up, the more I practice, the more I train, the more I grow, the better I get. And also the more exciting it is because the more possibility I see. And so one of the continual themes that just keeps coming up for hearing, and I think you model this beautifully, Ankush. That was one of the things in our first conversation that I was like, dude, I just really appreciate how deeply this guy goes for it. Is you really model the hell out of a mastery lifestyle. Like you really do, like you really immerse yourself in learning. And it's like, it's not a coincidence that you are being able to do some really amazing shit, like, you know, that you're creating a powerful life for yourself. And it's that journey of like, because you're, you know, just learning, really bringing in mentors, support, coaches. And that's the thing. I think that some people, you got to find the joy. You got to find the joy in that, in the journey. And sometimes it's as simple as realizing that it is a journey, that it's an actual quest. And as men, like we are on a fucking quest. This is an adventure. This is our life. Like every damn day, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is as well is that that's not a process for me. I mean, it is, but it wasn't designed that way. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to go. I had that in my career, you know, like you have it in everything. If you take these steps, then you will be successful. And the difference for me now is that when I found the thing that I was doing anyway, and everyone has that, you know, like I said, it could just be computer games, but there's something that we all are really passionate about. I feel most people have at least one thing that they really, really like, that they really like enjoying doing. There's something that they will do whether they got paid for it or not. It becomes a lot easier to spend that time and take the steps that you need to take. And I've got a question from Arvin. Arvin, I've invited you to the webinar. So if you want to come on live, there's a little button on the side. You can come online if you want. And Arvin's asked a question. So what's the answer to find your true passion? Maybe I did not get it, but didn't hear any process or path to take. Do you want to answer that first, Izzy?
Well, I'd say, so I think that so there's a couple of things, and we can look at a process, but I think the first important thing to understand, Arvind, is that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. Right? You ask yourself powerful questions and you can create powerful answers, which creates a powerful life. And what you asked is, what, if I heard it correctly, like maybe I missed it, but how do I find, what's the answer to how do I find my passion? Was that the question?
Yeah, pretty much. He said, I don't know if I missed it, but yeah. So what's the answer to find your true passion?
Yeah. And so that is that there is no single one individual answer. And as long as you're looking for that, you won't find it. Right? So part of the journey is going, all right, I'm going to step into it. I'm going to begin this process. Now, what do you want to do? Begin with that question. What do you want to do, Arvin? Like, what would be cool? What would be interesting? What would be fun? Okay, cool. All right, take one step. What is one step that you can take to move towards that? Okay. Then experience the step. Take a step, do it, whatever it is. Do you want to write a book? Do you want to be a speaker? You want to build a business? You want to travel abroad? Wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. Okay, cool. I want to do this. I want to travel this country. Okay, what's one step? And I think, and Ankush beautifully articulated the power of a step. Like a step doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't mean you quit everything and stop everything. Right? You can go and you can do a Google search. How do I travel abroad? How do I do it cheaply? how do I find the money to travel abroad? I mean, you can do whatever you want. But then reflecting on that experience, take a step, reflect on it, take another step, reflect on it. In that process, you will begin to develop your character, develop who you are. You have to get to a certain level of character, I believe, to really find what you want to do with your life.
And Arvin, like I said, I've invited you. I don't know if you're able to join us live. I would love to have you on and us to talk about this. Knowing Arvin a little bit, and we've worked together, and I won't bring it up unless you want me to, Arvin. But one thing that I know is there's some things that Arvin has shared with me that I know are way beyond what he's doing right now. So I already know that Arvin's got some kind of passion, right? Because maybe just because I've got that little bit of insight about Arvin. So like I said, if you want to come up and we can talk about it, great. But I think this is what we're pointing to, that every one of us has got some part of us when, and I love what you said, it's kind of when you're quiet and there's not all this, what you already know and the constraints you've got going on, but it's that time when it's quiet, when no one's around, and there's something for every one of us that we know, or we see something, or we hear something, we're like, that would be really cool. I would love to do that. Right? And it might sound crazy. It probably does, or at least at that moment in time. But we've all got that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I need to share some of the comments because we're getting some great comments here. So Hogney is saying that he's realized more deeply that the thing that he's always been passionate about is creating music, poetry, handcrafts, or ideas that come to him to create, and it's quite simple. He said for the past year it's been coming to him to play the cello. He sees images, visions, and even has dreams about it, and he had some logical reasoning about it, that, you know, that he hasn't touched it before, and, you know, whatever, and he goes, why is he trying to figure it out? It's just coming up for him. So that's great, Hogney, that you're seeing that, and I think what we're pointing to is pick up a cello, take the first step, see where that goes. Greg's commented. He said it's been really helpful. He said his wife doesn't understand or support his decision, but he has many people who support him, and he didn't realize he wanted to write until an author approached him about writing a book and said she saw a couple of books in him. And he's been creating brochures for a program or for a group, and she was impressed by them, but he hasn't written in 20 years. But again, what's coming up is people have their passions. So Brudges, I think, has got a question which is really poignant, which is, do you think our true passions are something we already knew or suspected in early childhood, kind of you wanting to be a ninja, or could it be something you discover in later life and does not have to tie into childhood dreams?
So I guess that sounds like it's directed at me, so I'll go ahead and tackle that. I would say that, you know, it's for me, so the first question of, do I believe that finding our purpose is always tied to childhood dreams? No, not necessarily. But I do think that, but it can be very often. And the simple reason is because for me, my life's purpose, my mission isn't to be a ninja, right? Like, it's not like, okay, I'm going to be a ninja. That was a big piece of my journey. Right, I moved to Japan. I lived to Japan for 4 years. I gave my life to martial arts. I began sharing my story with the world, built a business in the process doing that. And then I left there and I moved to America. I traveled around America studying Aikido, living in nature. And then now, you know, building a business where I'm bringing men out into the wilderness. And so the thing is that first piece, knowing that piece, it took me, 27 years to really put it to go, oh, I want to be a ninja. And then that just gave me the next step. And then I began to live into that. And then there was the next step. I want to go out into nature. I want to travel around America doing Aikido. And so what I think is that there's these things that all I'm hearing, it's really cool. These things that you guys want to do. And that what I'm hearing that's so exciting is this is what I want to do. This is the step I can take. Because what's going to happen is at some point, you'll either get to this thing and you'll realize, oh, I have now a greater purpose, a greater thing that you could not see before. It was not possible. It's as if it's a guiding light. It's a guiding light. The analogy, I was actually looking the other day and I was watching the sun. I was outside and I was watching the sun, and I realized that most people live a life always chasing the sun. They sit there and they see the sun and they say, I'll be happy as soon as I get the sun. So they keep walking towards it and they keep walking towards it. But then the sun's always kind of changed the position and everything. But even you can't actually ever get to the sun. But what you can do is you can enjoy the hell out of witnessing the sun, out of the journey on the way to the sun. And so it's a little bit of an esoteric answer to say that the indicators are in front of you and they're there to guide you. They're guiding posts. Being a ninja was merely a guiding post to my journey. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I don't know where my life's going to be in a year. I don't know where it's going to be in 3 months.
Yeah, that's so true. And again, everything that you're saying really reflects my own experience. I know when I decided to get into coaching, like what I thought that looked like was so different. I thought I'd be working in corporate. That's where I spent, my career, and I thought that's what I'd be doing. And what's really interesting for me is I had this whole thing in me about personal development, and I really was looking to like step away from that and do my own thing. But what started happening was I just started working with men from that personal development world, and which led eventually to a year and a bit down the line, this group that I've created, and it just kind of unfolded. But like you say, I didn't know that day one. I didn't think that was possible. And then what was possible, when I started this group is so different to what's possible right now. And you're right, it is an unfolding, and it's not this. I think we've said this a few times. It's not like a black and white thing. Like there's person A, and person A has no passion or vision or purpose, and then something happens, or they have an insight, and then they are the person who has an insight or vision, right? And it's like you're one or the other. But it doesn't work like that in my experience, because life isn't black and white. Life evolves, and people change, and things that you want change as well. So, and that's, by the way, a good thing, right? Because if you're always looking for that one thing, it's like, how do you know when you've got it? But you can always move towards what you enjoy. You can always move towards taking a step in a certain direction. And by the way, I spent a year trying things out that didn't work, and I thought, well, maybe I'm into photography, and I tried that, and I went to, believe it or not, to dance classes, because I actually really, really enjoy dancing. And if some people have seen some of my private Facebook videos, you'll see the truth of that. And I had all these like different ideas, and it was cool. It wasn't a bad time. I had a year doing stuff that I really enjoyed doing, and that was really, really helpful. And weirdly now, some of the stuff that I learned in those days is being helpful right now in terms of the photography piece and setting things up and all the rest of it. I know that Steve Jobs talked about this in his very famous commencement speech, I think at Stanford, where he was talking about he just went into a room and started learning about typography and stuff, and how that really became valuable to him later years down the line when he set up the Apple Mac. But it's certainly better than, if nothing else, if that's not true, it's certainly better than just waiting, right? And waiting to find it. And that's what I unfortunately find that I did for a long time, and I see a lot of other people doing. There's no need to do that.
Yeah. It's interesting because, the waiting is huge. I think I'm incredibly appreciative of my experience teaching in the classroom, being in the inner city. But I also know that there were earlier indicators years earlier that I could have moved on. One of the things that you said, Ankush, that really just resonated, and I think is a key theme that I see to people when they go deeper into their journeys and quests, is the so many ideas. I moved to Japan. So I'd moved to Japan to follow my heart, to become a ninja. And at some point I remember actually saying to myself, I need to figure out my life's purpose. Like, I need to figure out why I'm here. And I completely forgot, because actually I got there teaching in English. So I got my teaching English visa, went there. I was placed in the countryside and by a bunch of rice fields. There was no martial arts dojo. So I'd completely forgotten why I'd even gone there. And I remember I was sitting there and I was going, your video shut off. Is that cool? Cool. And I'd gone to Japan, gone there to the other side of the world, doing all this stuff. And I had no idea why I was there. I'd completely forgotten it. And I had so many ideas. I was like, I'm going to figure out what I want to do with my life. I started reading all these books. I had this idea to start a finance business, a weight loss business. I bought like these books to learn about physical fitness. I was going to do like CrossFit training. Then I was going to do P90X training to people. And then I was going to bring kids from the inner city to Japan. I would start a travel company. I mean, I could keep going. I remember one friend looked at me and she finally goes, I feel like you like change your mind every single day about what you're going to do with your life. And this is while in Japan. And it was actually a couple months of doing that search. And I remember I woke up in the middle of the night after doing a big reflection, right? Coming back to that kind of when we are not expecting it moment. I was in the middle of the night. I'm laying there and I'd woken up and I just went, oh yeah, I know what I want to do. I know exactly what I want to do. Like, I want to be a ninja. It's the reason I dropped everything in my life and moved to this country. So I said, I'm gonna quit this job at the end of the contract. I'm gonna find a city where there's great martial arts, and I'm gonna have to find a new job and do everything to keep my visa legal. But I'm gonna find a way to do it. Like, I'm gonna find a great martial arts dojo, move to a new city, and make it work. And then all of a sudden, and what I also said was, and I'm going to share my story with the world, because there has to be someone else out there who wants to follow a crazy dream. And the thing is that I knew enough to know that I felt like I was always quitting and always giving up. So I said, so I woke up, I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. And I woke up and I just started writing. That day, 30yearoldninja.com started as a blog that I made with WordPress, and just wrote and began sharing it. And lots and lots of up and downs within that journey, but and I thought I'd quit. I thought there's no way I'll stick with this, but I just kept writing every day and I kept taking action every day. And then 5 years passed and now I'm talking with all of you.
We've got 5 minutes left, and if I've really enjoyed this conversation, and if anyone's got a burning question, if there's something that you've asked or you haven't asked, or you think you've asked and we haven't answered it, this is the kind of last few minutes. If you want to get your question in and ask either myself or Izzy. While we're waiting for that, Izzy, what are you up to nowadays? You said that you take people out into the wild. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it's so interesting because, and you actually helped me a lot with this, when we had connected and talked about the Wilderness Intensive. The wilderness is a vessel, right? Nature is a vessel. And for me, it's a vessel in which I work through with the martial arts in the background, but I bring men out into the wilderness. I do programs with them, group programs, and help them really connecting with, like, why are you on this earth? What do you want to do? And then taking action on that process, beginning that journey to be able to support them. When you go out into the wilderness, face your fears, you got this flowing river, and you exist in that space. You feel alive, you feel connected, and from that space you can discover things. But is the question? Are there questions?
Yeah. It's that was a thing. So I think it's so cool that you're doing that. I wanted to make sure that people were aware of that, kind of where you've come from, and then also what you do now too.
Yeah, and also a part of it is I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I know what it is, and I don't know. Like, I got to figure it out here. I'm still changing, adjusting, and always, this works. This is where the hell are we going, and why are we doing this exactly? But trusting and listening, and doing what I can to make the world better.
Fantastic. Well, I haven't seen any of the questions come through, so I take it that we've absolutely done a brilliant job and we've answered everyone's questions. And
good. The world's done. We can. We're good.
Yeah. No one ever needs to know about how to find their passion anymore. We've worked it out. This is it. It's done.
We're amazing.
So well, thanks a lot for coming and joining me for this. I'm really glad that we got introduced. Arvin saying thanks down the side. He said he appreciated the answer that we gave earlier on. I've really enjoyed this, and I hope this is really going to help a lot of people. And for anyone that's watching this, if you've got any of the questions, if something comes up, I know a lot of people watch this on replay as well. How can people can find me on ankushjain.co.uk or through the Powerful Men's group. But if someone's got a question for you, Izzy, how can they find you?
Yeah, so if you have a question for me, this is what I love to do because I just love the intimacy. Now, a lot of your dudes, are they out in the UK or are they all over?
All over. Quite a few in the UK and Europe, but we have people from all around the world.
Cool. Okay, cool. So, so one way is just Facebook. Just go on Facebook, search Izzy Arkin, IZMAEL ARKIN. Add me. Just let me know you're connected through Ankush, and then you can ask me anything directly. You can call me, text me 707-485-4064. I love the intimacy. That there's 30yearoldninja.com, it's a website, everything, and you can go through there, you can sign up, join the community. But if you really want the personal connection, directly reach out to me, like let me know what spoke to you, and yeah, I'd love to just connect and hear more about your journey, your quest. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope everyone got a lot of value out of it too. And yeah, until next time.
All right, brother. Peace.